South Carolina, Gaffney, the home of the Indians, but also the home of the Limestone Saints. And we are here to visit with the folks at Limestone coming up in hour number 2 tonight. Looking forward to visiting with them as they've kind of gone back to the future, brought back in a former coach to try to revitalize things here at Limestone after a few years of not a whole lot of winning, and they hope that they can get back on the track to win some football games here at Limestone. So we'll have the folks here with us at Limestone coming up a little bit after 7 o'clock. Coach Mike Furry and a couple of players will be joining us. Pat Daniel is at our studios in downtown Columbia. Chris Bergen is at the Berge Palace in Sardis, and we're 1 day away, sir, 1 day away from having teams in South Carolina kicking it off for 2022. How pumped are you?
I am excited, and I admire your gusto because you're sitting there in Gaffney just down the road from its acclaimed Football City, USA in Rock Hill. I can't believe you would actually try and maneuver that moniker over to Gaffney. And especially considering that the Panthers wanted to be inside Rock Hill with their practice facility, maybe since they weren't able to get that worked out, maybe Rock Hill has actually lost Football City USA title over to a place like Gaffney.
Hard to argue, though, about Gaffney with all the state championships in football that this high school has had. But this is about Limestone, the Saints, and, they're still a relatively new program. And they brought back Mike Furry, who had some good success with them the first time around, and he's put his coaching staff back together, and they're hoping that he can, like I said before, kind of take them back to the future. Does that make sense? Go back to the success that they had when he was here, and then build on it moving forward with this new program. He is a good coach. He's an NFL guy. He was a receiver in the NFL. He comes back to Limestone after coaching for the Bears, the team for which he played in the NFL some. And I'm sure he'll be excited to join us a little bit after 7 o'clock and share some thoughts about his team and what they've done this season and getting ready, this preseason and getting ready for the upcoming season, which for them begins tomorrow. We're getting them the day before game day. How about that? Limestone playing at Gardner-Webb. Quick trip for them just across the border from here in Gaffney and Boiling Springs, North Carolina. But a good game for them to open up Gardner-Webb and see if they can get off on the right foot.
And I'd be curious, and you might want to ask Coach Fury about this when he jumps on board. I'm not sure if we delved into this the last time we had him. How much does he believe his sort of having a playing career in the NFL and having coached in the NFL attracts players to his college program? Because that's all we hear, right? Everybody wants to get to the league. And if you're coaching or you're playing for a coach who's been to the league and coached in the league, is that a positive? I can't imagine it's a negative. So I wonder how much he utilizes that in his recruiting. Hey, look, I realize we're a D2 program, but if you can play, you can play. It doesn't matter where you are. And I've got the connections and the pathway to help you get to the NFL if that's your ultimate goal. Why not come to play at Limestone?
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, he's got the experience. And of course, they had and his name's going to escape me. Maybe it'll come to you or maybe Pat will remember. There was a free agent receiver from Limestone who made it in the league. In fact, it was a few years ago, and he was very fast, and he went to South Carolina's pro day, and the pro scouts noticed him there, how fast he was, and he made it in the NFL, but his name escapes me. Can you remember who that was?
I had to look it up. I think it's Vincent Smith.
That's it.
He's actually a Columbia native. Yeah. Was an undrafted free agent with the Houston Texans a few years back.
Yeah, that's it. Meantime, around South Carolina, Clemson today, more talking with coordinators at USC and Clemson and some players at Clemson as well. So tonight we're going to hear from the quarterbacks. We're going to hear from DJ Uyangalele. We're going to hear from Spencer Rattler as they're getting ready for their season openers. I gotta think, as we sit here now, guys, I gotta think between the two. Well, there's pressure on both. Rattler wants to prove he's all that. Uyangalele wants to prove he's all that too. I think we got two guys that have a lot to prove as they open their seasons on Saturday.
And the interesting thing is there's actually one quarterback in the state that's being pushed for the Heisman Trophy, and it's not either one of those guys you just referenced. And the Heisman Trophy is actually going to be in South Carolina this weekend. Jamie Chadwell, Coastal, mentioning that today during his presser, because the university has made a major push to try and get, and let's face it, it's a far-fetched opportunity, but nonetheless, to try and put Grayson McCall's name in the thick of the Heisman Trophy race. And Phil, if you just looked at raw numbers, you took away Grayson McCall or took away where he plays, you just looked at his raw numbers, you can't argue the fact that he's not at least worthy of Heisman Trophy consideration. The problem is he plays at a G5 level in the FBS in a program that's 20 years old this year. So he doesn't get anywhere close to the publicity. But yeah, if I had told you before the season began the Heisman Trophy would be in the state of South Carolina this year for opening day, would you have thought it would have actually been in Conway, not in Columbia or at Clemson?
Well, I mean, not to be that guy that corrects you, but I mean, we have a Heisman Trophy that lives in this state year round.
No doubt. I was actually referencing, the next giveaway. I get George Rogers and everything he's done, and he's got his Heisman. He loves to travel that around and does a great job promoting that and promoting the university. And I realize USC has one on campus, but the next one is what I was referencing.
I understand. And of course, what's interesting, too, as you mentioned, you got McCall, who is being talked about. And these two guys have been talked about before. I mean, going into last season, Rattler was considered maybe the favorite or a favorite. And Uyangalele's also had his name mentioned as well. So, both of them want to get off to great starts. Clemson's a 21, make it 22. I think that line has climbed to 22 as of date today. 22-point favorite. And South Carolina's a 12.5-point favorite. Way I'm looking at it right now, I'm going to stick with what I said earlier. I'll take Georgia Tech in the 22 until I see what Clemson's offense is about. Do I think Georgia Tech is going to be greatly improved? Yeah, I think they're going to be improved with some of the transfers, including they got a former Tiger and a former Gamecock in the mix. They got Paul Chio starting on the offensive line, and E.J. Jenkins, wide receiver, will be in their receiver rotation. And as I've mentioned before, they've got new brain trust on the offensive side, quarterback coach, offensive coordinator. They have tried to shake things up quite a bit there at Georgia Tech because they need to. They're averaging 3 wins a year under Jeff Collins, and this will be his 4th year. So it's kind of the show me year for him. Maybe last year was kind of a show me year, but this year is definitely a show me year at Georgia Tech. And then, Georgia State coming into South Carolina, I still think, despite the good things we hear about Georgia State, and they're going to play hard, they're going to play physical, and they can run the football, and they're good at sacking the quarterback and all that, South Carolina shouldn't have too much talent from top to bottom. So I think, and playing at home, and the Gamecocks are really have become internally, they've become extremely hyped about this season. We'll see if there's reason to be hyped up. If they come out and don't put Georgia State away in a strong fashion, or even struggle to some degree, some of the air in that balloon might come out a little bit before they go to Arkansas the next week, Chris. They need to come out and play good, solid, clean, sound, fundamentally strong, smart football and beat Georgia State. Look, I have respect for the Sun Belt. That's a good football league. It's not a major step down from the Power Five, I would say. I would say there's some really good teams in that league. Coastal, Appalachian, Marshall. Louisiana team, Marshall, and Georgia State. Georgia State is kind of stepping up. They won 8 games last year. They won a bowl game last year. Sean Elliott is 30-30 in his career there, but he had his best year last year. The quarterback is from Conway, Granger, who's a athletic quarterback, can do a lot of things. They've got 19 other players from South Carolina on that roster, so they're going to be hyped, and they're going to want to play really well and play really hard. But South Carolina, I think this line is too small, and I'll take South Carolina to cover the spread against Georgia State.
I think past history of Gamecock openers, because it just always seems that they never play all that well. They usually win their opener. Normally it's against an overmatched team like last year against Eastern Illinois. And you would think for the most part this year against Georgia State. But what I don't want to hear afterwards, and I want the Gamecocks to come out and if you're a USC fan, you want to see them come out and dominate on both sides of the football and set a tone going to Arkansas. You don't want to come out of the game with, let's say, a 10 or 17-point win and think, well, you know what, the coaches were holding some things back because they didn't want to show Arkansas everything. No. Let the playbook, open up the playbook. Let's see what Spencer Rattler and that offense can do. Let's see the imagination that we saw last year in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. That caught North Carolina so off guard. You saw what that offense can do if it's got some creativity to it. Now you've got a quarterback, and this is not a knock on Dakereon Joyner, who I thought played exceptionally well last year in the bowl game. But you've got a quarterback with the pedigree, and you've got wide receivers. You can run the ball. You've got an offense. You've got great tight end, offensive line. You've got great tight ends. I'd like to see if you're Shane Beamer, don't hold anything back. If necessary, tell Marcus Satterfield to go to the last play of the playbook and run something, because you want to open it all up and let USC fans know, hey, all this offseason hype is legitimate, and we're gearing up towards a big run in the SEC. If you come out and narrowly get by, the narrative's going to be, well, you know what, Carolina didn't show everything. No, I don't want to see that. If you're a USC fan, you want to see everything that they've got in their arsenal and come out and dominate Georgia State on Saturday.
Okay, and our poll question of the week, of course, has to do with this week's games, the South Carolina game, the Clemson game, and how things are going to play out for them. 332 votes in the bank thus far. If you want to vote, it's on our Twitter at SportsTalk SC. And so out of 332 votes right now, most people, 50.9%, believe the two will cover. 24.4% have the Gamecocks covering, the Tigers not. 18.4% have that reversed, and 6.3% say both will fail to cover. So you've heard some great, spot on, unparalleled football talk and football analysis right there. But it only gets better from here, because at the bottom of the hour, making their return to Sports Talk for I don't know how many years it's been, it is going to be another edition of Chalk Talk with Chuck Reedy and Ellis Johnson. Yeah. Excellent. Listen, when these guys are dead, they'll still know more football than we know.
There's no doubt.
And I'm hoping that's not soon. I'm hoping we're not pushing the envelope with either one of them. But they'll be with us starting tonight on Wednesdays at 6:30. Mike Morgan will be moving to Wednesdays at 7:05. But this week, Mike will be with us again on Thursday as we juggle some things because of our travels. But tonight, it will be Chalk Talk with Chuck and Ellis. That's always a fan favorite. Got a lot of questions for the dynamic duo. I know Ellis was telling me he's read Phil Steele's magazine at least twice, so he's ready for the season. Said he got a bad headache doing it, but he's as prepared as any coach in the country after going through Phil Steele's College 22 football preview. So looking forward to having those guys with us, and we can take some quick phone calls here. You want to jump on board? Share any thought, comment, remark, observation, feel free. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. And since 2002, more than $2.2 billion in lottery proceeds have been used to fund life scholarships for the state's college-bound students. You can learn more about the South Carolina Education Lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education. Wins and playing for fun is a win for education. So we'll go to the break.
Before you throw it to break, coming out of the break, I want to get into your flash poll, if you will, question this afternoon. Okay. I thought it was a really, really interesting question today with regards to SEC's opening weekend. I'd like to get into that if we can.
Anybody respond to it?
Actually, I did see what appears to be a Georgia fan chiming in, but that's all I've seen thus far.
All right. Well, I haven't had a chance to check, but if we got some response to it, we will take your response and others as well. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. We'll be back after this break. We are at Limestone University to visit with the Saints tonight. Tomorrow night, we wrap it up with the Flying Fleet of Erskine over there between Greenwood and Abbeville. And, of course, tomorrow, Dabo Swinney has his press conference on Georgia Tech. We'll be there for that before we make our way to Erskine. Okay, back after the break.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, But South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
Your home is where your memories live. It's where you laugh and where you love. We understand the importance of the valuables under your roof, tangible and intangible alike. So no matter what's around the corner, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
Call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171 for all of your Midlands insurance needs.
It all builds up to this at Darlington Raceway.
If you're going to kick off the playoffs,
Good stop, guys.
why not do it big?
Green flag is up.
Like Labor Day weekend big.
Get in your car here.
That's how you make a move.
Like Southern 500 big. The only thing bigger than the action would be the experience of seeing it live. And that
I got into the wall.
might just be too tough to take.
Bring it home, bring it home.
NASCAR Playoffs weekend at Darlington Raceway, September 3rd through the 4th. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
Okay, we're back on Sports Talk, Sports Talk Media Network. We are at Limestone University visiting with the Saints tonight a little bit after 7 o'clock. They will come by with the coach and some players. A couple of players will join us. Look forward to finding out how their camp has been and what they're looking forward to for this coming season, which for them begins tomorrow night. This is another first. I don't think we've ever done a show the night before the team we're talking to is actually playing a game. So we appreciate Limestone making time for us on not short notice, but as we had to kind of adjust things because I was off for a week in terms of making the travel. So appreciate them working with us and giving this opportunity to come visit with Coach Furry and with the players. So you wanted to comment on the little quick question poll. No, it really wasn't a poll. It was just a question for people to respond to and for people who know what we're talking about on Twitter. I just threw out the question this afternoon. You know, I think every SEC team is in action this weekend, and which team is likely to be upset? Because I think almost all of them are favored. Which SEC team most likely will be upset? JP responded to us that has to be looking at Auburn or South Carolina. He said Mercer would have to play a perfect game, but Auburn is a dumpster fire, and South Carolina is showing a lot of confidence for a team that showed nothing in 3 years, lots of hype around Rattler. This is according to a response to that. So what do you think? Which SEC team is most likely to lose, is in the endangered zone this weekend in their opener?
Well, first off, I don't think Florida's not favored over Utah, are they?
No, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one. Most of them, I think almost everyone is favored except for Florida. I think Florida's about a 3-point underdog at home.
You know, and sticking with the Georgia theme for a moment, they could be in a bit of trouble with Oregon because of Oregon's offensive line. This is a pretty talented team, and all of that Georgia lost. But here's the caveat to that. First off, Oregon's got to come 2,500 miles thereabouts to play the game. And secondly, Bo Nix is probably starting the game. Mm-hmm. I don't know how anybody can trust Bo Nix at quarterback against a team as talented as Georgia, even though they've got their former DC coaching now at Oregon. So there should be some familiarity between the two. I really think the team that might be in the most trouble in the SEC, I don't think it's South Carolina. I don't think it's Auburn. I think it's LSU taking on Florida State.
Yeah. Well, that too was a short spread.
Yeah, 3 points the last I checked.
Yeah, I guess people would still, with Brian Kelly and all the hoopla around him and LSU and all the trouble that Florida State has had, even though Florida State, I didn't see the game, but they put a lot of points on the board against Duquesne. And according to reports, they look better. They look sharper. Of course, they looked better early last year.
Yeah,
before they kind of fell apart. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know that much about either team at this point, except for the little bit that I've read. And this game's a neutral site game. Well, say it's a neutral site game. It's in the Superdome. I think I will
That's
go.
as neutral site as Atlanta is for the Georgia-Oregon game.
Yeah. So you know what? With that in mind, I think I'm going to go LSU's way in that game. I'll lean that way. I think LSU's a small favorite in that game, like a 3-point favorite or so. So I'd probably take LSU and lay the points in that one. Home field and probably the emotion around Brian Kelly. And I know LSU still got some good players left over from the previous regime. So that is where I would go. Pat, you feel like as far as the Gamecocks and Tigers are concerned, are you suggesting that neither will cover on Saturday?
Hello?
I think Pat might be busy. He might be busy grabbing a phone.
No, I'm back now. We've got new to the team here, JP, who's in training with me a little bit tonight, taking over the high school scoreboard show, and I was going over a few things with him.
Sorry,
but no, you're fine. You're fine. So yes, I don't think either team covers this weekend. Put me into that category. I still can't help but think back to that 2019 opener where Georgia State upset Tennessee up in Knoxville. I am not saying they are going to upset South Carolina. I don't think that happens. I think the Gamecocks win, but I will take the points there. I think that Georgia State will take the same approach they did in that Tennessee game. The final score was 38-30, so that might be a bit misleading, but they ran the ball. Georgia State did 53 times in that game. They basically played keep away from Tennessee's offense as much as they could throughout that game. They tried to minimize possessions for that potent Tennessee offense, or what we thought was going to be a potent offense. And I think the same approach will happen here in Columbia this weekend. I think that they will do their best to keep the ball out of Spencer Rattler and that offense's hands, and they're just going to pound the rock as much as they can. And they bring back 4 starters on the offensive line. They have 2 900-yard rushers from last year in Tucker Gregg and Jamiest Williams. That ground attack averaged 226 yards a game last year. I just think it's all going to come down to game management, and I just don't think the Gamecocks will have enough possessions so as to build that lead. Where I may be wrong is come fourth quarter when you start to see the difference in the second stringers, and that's where Carolina may cover late. But I still would put myself in that camp that Beamer and Satterfield will keep the offense fairly vanilla. They're going to want to save up for that Arkansas and Georgia game the next 2 weeks and not give away anything, because this is essentially a brand new offense with all the new personnel. And you couple that with Georgia State running the ball 50 times, I just think they keep it under the threshold for the spread. And then Clemson, again, similar. I think you equate this to when you have a basketball player who's struggling and you just want to see the ball go through the net. I think that'll be the offensive mindset here. I think the offense is going to do a lot of underneath and short passes for DJ, just trying to build his confidence. They have no fear of losing to Georgia Tech. And with that being said, I think similarly, we will not see the Tigers cover in Atlanta either.
You don't fear the Gamecocks losing to Georgia State, do you?
I do not, but I do think it'll be closer in the spread. But I think in the fourth quarter they will pull away. But I would imagine it's a 1-score ball game through 3 quarters.
That one makes for some uneasy feeling in Columbia, that's for sure.
If it's a 1-score game going to the fourth quarter, I'll eat the program at my seat. I'll put a little salt and pepper on it, and I'll eat it. Now, that game will be tucked away. We're talking Spencer Rattler, man. Spencer Rattler, the Venom offense. Back after the break.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Clear this evening with a few passing clouds and a low of 70. Tomorrow, very nice. More sun than clouds, low humidity, and a high temp hitting 91. For the weekend, Carolina and Georgia State kickoff Saturday at Williams-Brice. There's a 30% chance of showers and a game time tip in the low 80s. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Football is back. And this year, the Citadel is trying to be top dog.
Get in here! I got one thing to say. This is when the big dogs come out. You can't run with the big dogs. Stay on the ball.
Touchdown, Bulldogs! Fire those cannons. The Bulldogs are back.
The Citadel Bulldogs, all season long on 100.7 The Point.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting inflation in the European countries using the euro currency hit another record in August, fueled by soaring energy prices, mainly driven by Russia's war in Ukraine. Annual inflation in the Eurozone's 19 countries rose to 9.1% in August, up from 8.9% recorded in July. That's according to the latest figures released Wednesday by the European Union Statistics Agency. Inflation is at the highest level since record-keeping for the euro began in 1997. The Kremlin treaded carefully Wednesday, reacting to Mikhail Gorbachev's death, praising his prominent role in reshaping 20th century history, but noting his romantic view of the West. The ambivalence was reflected in uncertainty about funeral arrangements. He will not receive a state funeral. More details at srnnews.com.
If you're an avid shooter or you're new to shooting, Shooter's Choice is your paradise. A firearms specialty store with all types of firearms, ammunition, accessories, AR platform rifles, shotguns, hunting rifles, and much more. Shooter's Choice has the largest and best selection of firearms in the area. Shooter's Choice is the oldest, the most professional firearms dealer in the Midlands. They've served us for more than 30 years. Family owned, they've never let themselves lose that hometown feel. You go into Shooter's Choice, you'll get experts who hunt and shoot. It's not like some big box store. Their staff has decades of experience. You just won't get this anywhere else. From the classics to the newest cutting-edge products anywhere in the firearms world, they buy, sell, and trade firearms. They have an indoor firing range for handguns and hunting rifles. If you don't want to spend the gas money, hop on shooterschoicesc.com and shop online 24/7. Whatever you choose, Shooter's Choice will make it easy on you. In West Columbia at 944 Sunset Boulevard or online, shooterschoicesc.com. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Our animal shelters are overflowing, so Columbia Animal Services makes adoption easy. It's time to clear the shelters. For the entire month of August, it's free adoption for dogs and cats. If you've wanted to get a family pooch or that special kitty cat, visit petfinder.com and bring a new family member home for free the entire month of August. Now is the time. Let's clear the shelters. Find your dog or cat right now at petfinder.com and adopt for free in August.
Have you fallen behind on your taxes and might be facing IRS penalties? Have wage garnishments, levies, or liens? Have unfiled tax returns? You want someone local and qualified. Don't fall for those national spots. Meet with me, Teresa, at Capital City Professional Services, and let me help you through your tax maze. I can help with all your tax resolution issues. There are options to get you back on track. Call Capital City Professional Services, 400-8683. That's 400-8683.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, when you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? Well, I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer? That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
I asked Pat one time why he chose this music for this segment, and he said, well, because, it relates to something old. And I don't know what he meant by that, but he likes to play it when we bring the coaches on. That's not my idea, so don't blame me. We welcome in once again. We kick off another year of Chalk Talk here on Sports Talk. We welcome in two of the great coaches of all time in the state of South Carolina. Great minds, great people, Chuck Reedy and Ellis Johnson. Chuck on the offensive side, Ellis on the defensive side, though both have been head coaches and in charge of everything at one time or another. Let's welcome them back. Chuck, first of all, thank you for joining us. How are you? Hope you've had a great offseason and ready for some football.
Oh, yeah, doing great. Getting old. I hope we're still sharp enough, to hang with you.
Well, if you're not, we'll just get you to the home and let you vegetate. That's all. Ellis, good evening. Great to have you back with us once again. I hope you've had a great off season, sir.
It's been great. It didn't go by fast enough. And hey, old is not bad. It beats the alternative.
This is true. This is absolutely true. Okay. It's good to have you two with us. Let's look ahead because the season begins tomorrow for teams here in South Carolina. We've got 4 teams playing tomorrow night, and then we get down to more games this coming weekend. Chuck, let's begin with you and just kind of get your thoughts if you just want to throw them out there based on what you know and what you've learned regarding South Carolina and Clemson going into this season. What's your general thoughts?
Well, you think going in, both of them should be improved. Obviously Clemson last year, somewhat of a down year. They're going to be better. Quarterback's going to be better. He's got to be better. If he's not, they've got somebody that can step in. They didn't have that last year, and they're going to be really, really good on defense again. So you have to think they're going to be better. South Carolina, the good thing for them, they were up and down during the year, had some downtime, but they finished strong, and then winning the bowl game. They had a really positive off season, which always helps in recruiting. Obviously the Rattler thing is a big deal, but just a positive vibe going on there. They've got 4 or 5 transfers that are going to start, so they've got to be better. The thing you always deal with there is just the schedule. Is going to be challenging. So to get beyond 7 wins, they're going to have to beat some people that are as good as them or better. But they've got a lot going for them right now.
All right, Ellis, what's your general thoughts on both of these teams from what you've learned from talking to people, your own digging, your own checking out the 2 programs? What's your general thoughts about the 2 going into the season?
Well, very similar to what Chuck has already said, but just adding as much as I can. Both have reason for optimism, and I think there's a lot of optimism in both programs. Clemson had a disappointing season last year. They had raised their program to a level where 10 wins is disappointing, which says a lot about the program. But that defense is supposed to be just really tremendously strong, and I've got 2 former players and a former GA on that side, and I've talked to them a little bit. I mean, they got players. They've recruited class on top of class, and that has been top notch. So, and then they expect the quarterback to be better. He's been there a year. He's done some things to help himself physically, and I think they'll get better play there. I think they got to stay healthy at wide out and help him. South Carolina has optimism. I mean, Rattler. And whether Spencer Rattler ends up being the greatest quarterback to ever play at Carolina or not, guys, remember this time last year, we didn't even know who they were going to play.
Yeah.
Just to take that equation out of it, they won 7 games last year and didn't even know who their quarterback was going to be from week to week. And then their defense returned a lot of numbers. So, yeah, I think both places, there's some optimism. I'm sure they, have to improve in some areas, but there should be some really optimism and some excitement in both programs.
Chuck, over your career, you worked with a lot of quarterbacks, and so take on Rattler and take on Uyunglele from maybe what you've seen on television, what you've seen on tape, what you've heard from people. What do you like about them? Where do both you think need to step it up to have that special year for their teams?
Well, Rattler, I mean, the guy was I think he was the leading Heisman Trophy guy coming into last season. And they struggled. Oklahoma was not the Oklahoma last year, not just Rattler, but the team as a whole. I don't think performed. He didn't have a good supporting cast around him. They didn't perform like they, typically do. And so, you have to go back and think, what was, the guy was obviously very, very good. He hadn't lost any of that. I think the big thing for him will just be regaining his confidence and having a change of scenery obviously is good for that. And apparently from everything I've heard, he's fit in very well and really done a good job of, providing the kind of leadership that he needs to do. So, I think it's just a matter of him going out and playing his game. That's all he needs to do. Ungalele, last year, maybe he was hurt. I know he had a bad knee, but, as Ella said, I mean, he's lost some weight, which should help him. I didn't think he was very mobile. I thought his footwork, was not very good. And that, that accounted for a lot of the bad throws, the overthrows and things of that nature. Now, and I know, I think he spends a lot of time, with quarterback gurus and stuff trying to improve all of that. And, it remains to be seen. I mean, I think he'll have a real short leash. I don't think they're going to go out there and let him play like he did last year and stay with him very long. If the freshman is as good as everybody says that he is.
Ellis, South Carolina's back with Clayton White as defensive coordinator. I think everybody agrees that he did a heck of a job last year with that defense. Brent Venables is gone from Clemson, and I'm assuming his get-back coach is gone with him. So you've got a different personality, a guy that they say is very bright and kind of the brains behind things, maybe part of the brains behind things up there defensively, but a different personality. So what do you think of the two defensive coordinators, White being in his second year, what that means to South Carolina and what he's done, and then Wes Goodwin, he's got talent. That's right. I mean, I think the only thing he can do is mess it up because he's got great talent. But what do you think of the two coordinators?
Well, I think that both will do a great job. Now, I'm partial to Wes. He was my graduate assistant over Mississippi State. I knew right then he was going to be successful, whatever he did. He's tremendously intelligent. I saw when Lemansky Hall, one of my former players who's a defensive line coach, made a comment the other day that he must have a photographic memory. And I tend to agree with him. It's just, he's uncanny in the things he can do for the X and O's and recall stuff and all that. Now, does it equate into being a good defensive coordinator? I think it will for two reasons. Number one, he's tremendously able and capable. But the other thing is he didn't have a lot of turnover on that side of the ball. And all those other assistant coaches on that side of the ball are totally behind Wes and totally confident in him. And again, he's got that one thing that everybody wants. He's got talent. And he's going to have a lot of room to experiment, improve, get better. I don't think their opening three games are going to challenge him very much unless they play poorly. And I think that he's going to probably grow a little bit with that, but I think he'll do fine. I hate that I hadn't even met Clayton yet. I've been over three times, went to the camps this summer. Just didn't have a chance to visit with him, but it kind of run that system of defense that we ran when we were Carolina, and I like it on that level. I think the key to them this year, they were solid last year, but they didn't really win a game on defense. They didn't shut anybody down, and I don't know they've got those kind of players this year. But I think the key is how many takeaways they create, because I think they can go from solid to really, really good this year, even in the SEC. They generate a lot more takeaways.
Season debut tonight of Chalk Talk with Ellis Johnson and also Chuck Reedy. And guys, I wanted to get both of your takes on this because you've each coached at the high school level where you've had the opportunity to have jamborees and scrimmages, and then obviously at the collegiate level where you don't get those opportunities during the offseason. We're chatting a lot about the unknown, but Ellis, do you think college football would be a little bit better, especially early in the season, if there were, say, just a scrimmage with some other team during the preseason? Or do you like the way the setup is in college, which makes it so unique from the NFL and also high school?
I don't know if it makes it any better. I know that if I was coaching, I would like those. I I think even in the spring, and also maybe one in the fall. I mean, that's getting pretty close to game time. I don't know, but if coaches used it the right way, it'd be a tremendous tool. They don't trust college coaches, and I guess if you look back over 40 years of history, there's reason not to. They feel like they'll abuse players or, screw up situation, get too competitive, won't charge money to get in. But I just think it makes no sense. They do it on some of the little mighty mites do it, before they have their first game. They do it on the high school level. They do it in the pros. But for some reason, it doesn't work in college, and I don't really understand that. I would like to have that advantage or that opportunity if I was still coaching at college level.
Chuck, we've heard both Dabo Sweeney talk about this and sort of bang the drum for the opportunity to at least get a scrimmage. I think Shane Beamer's on that train as well. Your experience, do you feel like high school teams benefit from the opportunity to get some preseason practice in against another team before they actually kick off the season?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, I think, as Ellis said, I think it would be a great thing if you could have a scrimmage at the end of spring, and somewhere in fall practice. Fall practice, goes on for 3 or 4 weeks, and if you had something in there somewhere, to kind of give the guys something to look forward to, I think would be a motivating factor and would be a really good thing. And that one scrimmage, would give you, gives you, a good perspective on, where you are and where you need to be.
All right, couple more minutes with Chuck Reedy and Ellis Johnson. Let's get off the actual X's and O's and talk about the other big things about college football, the NIL deal. And Ellis, when you were coaching, if the world of today was around when you were coaching, now let's just say, look, like it or not, it's here and it's not going away. It's going to be the way of the future in college sports, whatever you want to call it, college pro sports, whatever. But if today's world was around when you were coaching, I mean, how much damage could you have done from a recruiting standpoint? Just having, freedom to go out and recruit a player and talk about money and jobs and riches and cars and everything else that they can do now in the world of NIL.
We always did that. I mean, it's not new.
Well, wait a minute. It's legal now. It wasn't legal. It wasn't legal when you were doing it. I'm talking about doing it legally now.
I didn't say I did anything. Let me just make my basic statement about what's going on now. But remember now, it wouldn't just be me that would be able to do it legally. The rest of everybody would be able to do it too. So
right.
It's a balanced playing field. But what I don't like about it, giving the money to players, absolutely. The way that it's taken on its own life and it let it get out of control, they got a problem. And I really think they'll have serious issues in the NCAA in 5 years. They're going to have kids in all kind of trouble with crooks, people taking advantage of them, tax issues, anything from drugs to females or whatever else. You see it happen to these 23-year-olds and 24-year-olds in the NFL. And if you don't think it's going to happen to a 19-year-old kid, I mean, you must be under a rock somewhere. And I just feel like they've let it get to a point where it's going to be an absolute mess. They've also castrated the NCAA. And I was never any big fan of the NCAA.
Yeah.
But without them, you don't have parity. You don't have structure. You don't have anybody guiding force. I mean, hell, even the NFL has owners and a commissioner. And so there's some kind of parity with the rules. It's a horse out of the barn right now, and I think they're going to regret it in about, say, 5 or so years. They're going to have a mess on the team.
Well, my theory is that ESPN will eventually rule college sports, and Greg Sankey will eventually rule over ESPN and be the czar, the commissioner of all of college sports. That's my gut feeling. I think that's what his goal is. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but just the way things.
TV already owns college football.
Right.
They own it.
Exactly. And I think they're going to separate and do their own thing. But, Chuck, let me ask you, I mean, in this new world that is now permanent for NIL, and no telling what direction it's going to move in the years to come as things develop. Now, to kind of answer something that Ellis was talking about, his concerns. Now, South Carolina just announced yesterday that they're paying basically an agency out of Greenville, sports agent, $2.2 million over 2 years to represent their athletes and make their deals for them, which I would imagine part of that is making sure that the taxes are right, the guidance is right, and they're dealing with people above board. So in South Carolina, I mean, this is being hailed as groundbreaking and nation leading and all that kind of stuff. Is that money well spent?
Well, yeah, it is. In this environment, it is well spent, and they're trying to do it the right way. The problem is, and Ellis nailed it. The NCAA is